Well, what is up? Welcome to another edition of SacTown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason. And today we are back reviewing a new film that is playing in theaters, but I actually just recently caught it over the weekend on streaming for $20. So I didn't have time to get to the theaters. And that movie is going to be called Don't Breathe 2. So, I say, without further ado, I say we get right into it, and I'll have you take this one away, Jason, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure. This Don't Breathe 2 is obviously a sequel to Don't Breathe, which was kind of a surprise hit back in, I don't know, 2018 or 17? I'm not sure.
Something like that. I don't remember the year, but yeah.
Yeah. I remember that was one that I was really stoked for, but not too many people. It's one of those that, like, was a smaller film. I don't think it was expected to be as big of a hit as it was, but only myself and like a few people were excited before it came out, and then like when it came out, it kind of blew up. So,
Right.
which is good. I think it was worth every bit of attention that it got because
It was a good film.
it's a heck of a movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It didn't make my top 10 for that year. Maybe it's this year that we'll be doing our next top 10. I don't remember, but it didn't make my top 10 for that year. But I do remember it being good. I own it, actually. I ended up buying it. So, but I definitely did like it quite a bit. So.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, it's one of those movies, those rare movies that we've talked about this a million times. It hits every one of my three favorite subgenres, which are, I mean, kind of not subgenres, but I guess themes that I like. Number one, it's a trapped movie where people are trapped in a place that they can't get out of. It's a bag of money movie because they're after, like, even if it's not a literal bag of money, they're after some loot, the characters. And number three, it all takes place over the course of one night, for the most part. It's one of those movies that checked all three of my favorite little genre boxes, and it did all three of those at the same time, and it did them well, So I think I love Don't Breathe, the first one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the sequel, it is. It's not directed by the same director, Fede Alvarez. I can't remember what he's working on now, but he went from the Evil Dead remake to this, and he took along Jane Levy with him, and I think she's a great heroine in both of those. I can't remember the name of the guy who directed this one, but basically it does not follow the Jane Levy character. Like, she's not in this movie at all. Instead, it kind of takes the unexpected route of following, in a more centralized role, the villain. Yeah. Played by, oh God, I blinked on his name all of a sudden. Stephen. I know his name. I'm
blanking for a second. I can't see it on this thing right now. So it's Steven something though.
Yeah. So he. Yeah. I have no alternate screen when I'm doing these recordings, so I can't check on my own, unfortunately. But it follows the villain, the blind character, on this one, and it basically picks up a few years after the first one.
Lang is his last
Stephen
name.
Lang. Okay. There we go. Lang. Yeah, that's right. Of course. Yeah. Great actor. And it follows his character down the road, and a few years after the first one, where he has taken in a little girl and moved to a different location, has another like fortified house, kind of secluded from everyone else, and it's a pretty simple story. It's a home invasion story, much like the first one, but it involves some very unsavory characters. It's one of those movies that just has some people you just can't wait to get what's coming to them, basically.
Yeah, they're all really bad people. I mean, they're really just nasty, bad people. So, yeah. He's not necessarily a good guy either, but he's not them. You know what I mean? Because there's definitely some things he does in the first film where you know why he's a villain. You know what I mean? So, but he's not them.
Sorry, someone was trying to call me there. Sorry. But you were saying
All I saw
some things
was
he does in the first film.
something like that. I'm like, what are you doing over there? No,
Sorry.
I was just saying. I was just saying he's a bad character too, but you but he's not as bad as those guys. I was just saying he definitely does some things in the first film that where you definitely know he's a villain for sure. Even though he was protecting his house in the first one, I guess if you will, he was also doing some very bad stuff in that also. So
Yeah, and frankly, there's a lot of people were uncomfortable with the idea of the sequel in the first place, and I kind of agree, with that. Like why, his character was pretty awful in the first one. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
yeah.
okay, like it was his house that was getting burglarized or whatever.
Right, but
But you can that
there's
you
a
can
twist. Yeah, there's a twist at the end of the first one that you find out that makes him even worse of a person.
yeah,
Initially he was just a villain because they were breaking into his house and he was basically
yeah.
locking them in a nutshell and attacking them. But then there's a twist in the latter part of the film where you find out that he's even more of a villain than you thought he was. So it's kind of weird that they kind of made him basically the anti-hero in this second one, I guess. So
Sort of. I mean, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but because I mean, I guess we can just get right into it. To me, like yes, I understand the criticism that people had, that criticism, but I don't think this movie. Although there's shades of bad in this movie, basically, like you were kind of alluding to before. To me, though, he's not the protagonist of this movie. That's what I kind of thought it would be like when I saw the trailers. But to me, the little girl is the protagonist. It's really her story, and she's kind of the only. She's the only sympathetic character in the movie, really. I mean, and she's kind of caught in between different levels of bad. You know what I mean? So that's what I think makes this movie. Not that I think that every movie has to have a lead character that you are that is a wonderful person, but I think truly what makes this not as icky as I think some people might think it is before seeing it, is that it's her story and that she's caught in the middle of a lot of other things. You know what I mean? So, but basically, in a nutshell, I know we kind of went around it in a roundabout way. I really like this movie, and I wasn't necessarily expecting to because the reviews are pretty mixed. I didn't really love the concept of, I didn't really understand why they would want to take the series in that direction when I first heard about it. But I think it's just a really good, really twisted, really violent movie, and I kind of like that kind of stuff. I mean, it's really suspenseful. It's really gritty, and just like the violence in this movie and the gore in this movie is just like, oh my god, like a lot of the time. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not like the classiest thing to say, but I love that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I love that kind of like wincing and like, oh god, oh no. You know what I mean? And it's a really effective thriller on that level. Like if you're willing to just watch a really just down and dirty, simple 90-minute B movie where a lot of bad people do bad things to each other, and it's exciting and suspenseful and really like well shot. Like the sets in this movie are great, and the way the violence is choreographed is really cool. And there is a pretty good twist in the middle that I didn't see coming, and I thought that kind of made it even more twisted and gross in a lot of ways, but I went with it because it's that kind of movie. And I mean, if you're not down for, just some, like it's a bad people doing bad things to each other movie. And I like those kind of things. And to me, it accomplished every goal that it set out to accomplish. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah, maybe I'm a sicko. I don't know. But I like that kind of stuff. It's a grindhouse movie. It's a B movie. It's a drive-in movie, that kind of thing. If you can get into it on that level, and if you like just a lot of like really violent movies that are well done, I recommend it, especially if you like the first one, because I think it's a reasonable continuation of the first one, also, which is important. So. It complicates the Stephen Lane character without making him a hero, I don't think. Personally, that's what I think. But what did you think, here?
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know that I loved it quite as much as you did, or liked it as much as you did, but I did like it. I don't necessarily 100% agree that he's not the anti-hero. I know you say that she's more of the protagonist, but you are still kind of in a place where you're kind of rooting for him in some capacity. You know what I mean? Because of what happens and what the bad guys do, you are kind of sort of rooting for him to get his just revenge. You know what I mean? Whereas in the first one, even though those characters were kind of flawed too, because they were literally breaking into his house. They were literally breaking into his house in order to, rob him in a nutshell. You still had more sympathy for them because he really seemed like just like a villain in that one. This one, he's still kind of a villain, but you still are kind of rooting for him, and you don't. And if you hadn't seen the first film and you only saw this film, I don't know that you would know necessarily that he was that bad of a person initially. You know what I mean? You don't. There is another twist that happens in the film where you maybe look at him a little differently, but I don't know that necessarily before that though you necessarily would think that he was a bad person before that. You know what I mean? So you're
Well, yeah, in the first one, yeah, because he's just kind of a loner. That's what he looks like at first.
right, right. But even in this one, like I'm saying, if you hadn't seen the first film, if you only saw this film, would you go into this film thinking he was a villain? You know what I mean? Like I don't know that you would think that. So.
Mm-mm. No, but then again, I don't know anybody who would see this without seeing the first one.
Well, I mean that's true, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you're basing him being a villain based on the first film. Whereas if you just went into this one and on its own merit, I think that you still would consider him more part of a protagonist in that sense. I don't know. So, but
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like he's a different character in this one. Because he's more protecting the girl versus protecting his property. I don't know. So
Yeah.
but in that sense, but yeah, there's definitely another twist that happens in this one that I didn't expect. I thought that was different. But yeah, it's a very violent film. It does have a lot of action if you're looking for that. It's very gritty. Which I love that kind of stuff. I love violence and action for sure, and I don't care how gritty it is. It's a horror film in the sense that it's so gritty and violent. You know what I mean? It's like one of those films where it's not necessarily scary of a horror film, you know what I mean, where you're going to be scared and terrified, but it's more just scary between just like the brutality of what happens to characters in this film, I guess, if you will.
So, and the gore. I mean, it's a gory movie.
Yeah, and the gore factor as well. But I did like it. Like I said, I don't necessarily know that I loved it, but I did like it. I thought it was really good. So I'll leave it at that.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add about Don't Breathe 2? It's a pretty simple, basic plot. I mean, that's the other thing about it. The plot is very simple in that sense that it you know what I mean. You don't need a whole lot of background, and really you wouldn't need to see the first film in order to see this one. You know what I mean? It's its own story. I guess.
You wouldn't.
Huh?
I said no, you wouldn't.
Yeah. So I mean, it's its own story. The plot is very, very simplistic. But the first one had a pretty simplistic plot as well. You know what I mean? So, the first one was, people breaking in to steal his stuff. This one's people breaking in to, steal a girl maybe or kidnap somebody. You know what I mean? Like this, it's a very simple plot in that nutshell. So that's not a spoiler. But trailers. So it's a very simple plot in that sense. So. But I mean, it is what it is. If you're looking for like a really good 90-minute, not a whole lot of downtime, that kind of stuff, then this is right up your alley. If you're looking for something that's like horror action, then you're probably gonna have a decent time with this one. So, in my opinion,
yeah, yep.
Even though the reviews are mixed, but I feel like for a lot of horror movies, the reviews are gonna be a little mixed. So.
Yeah, the reviews that are positive for this movie, I agree with. That it's Oh,
really?
Just a that it's just
I liked it, and the reviews that are positive, I agree with.
Well, you know what I mean. Whatever. Shut up.
The ones that are negative, I didn't agree with those.
Yeah, screw them. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. No. I know what you mean though. But no, it was good. I guess what was your overall grade and face you would give this one?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I gave it a B plus, which for me is a 4 out of 5. Which means I had a good time. I thought it achieved everything it set out to do, and I had a good time watching it, and it was well done. I mean, it was a brutal, tense action horror, gore fest, like wince fest, like home invasion, bloody nightmare, and I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, 4 out of 5, B plus, solid. I'd definitely watch it again.
Cool. Yeah, I would watch it again as well. I definitely went lower, went about a star lower than you. I went to the 3 out of 5. I like I said, I did like it. It's a solid film. There wasn't enough meat to it to be like, oh my god, this is amazing for me. But I did like it. I thought that it did what it set out to do, like you for the most part. I don't have too much of a huge critique on it, other than it is. I mean, it is what it is. It's either you're going to like that type of film or you're not. So, and I can't say that everybody is going to love this film, especially if you've seen the first one and you didn't like his character. I think some people may come into it with some reservations immediately about him or about the character. So I can see people not necessarily wanting to see it or, having some issues with him personally. So, because he does some really, really vile stuff in the first film. So,
I know.
Yeah. So, but I liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. So, I'm just gonna give it a big smile. No teeth in this case, but definitely liked it. Definitely enjoyed it. So,
yeah.
Cool. Well, let us know down in the comments. Have you seen Don't Breathe 2? Did you like it? Did you like the first one? How does it compare? Obviously, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification, and we'll be back again with another show for you guys again real soon. We thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. Bye.